Everyone in the mansion laughed at the maid they thought was invisible, but none of them knew she was the reason the Mafia Boss was still alive 15 years ago. Vincent Blackwood had built his entire life around power, reputation, and control. As the leader of one of Chicago's most influential mafia families, he was a man people respected from a distance. His name opened doors, his decisions shaped businesses, and his presence alone could change the atmosphere of any room. But inside his grand estate, where luxury filled every corner, there was one person almost everyone ignored: Emily Carter. Emily worked as a maid in Vincent's mansion. She arrived before sunrise, completed her responsibilities quietly, and never tried to attract attention. To the wealthy guests and powerful people who visited the estate, she was simply another employee in the background. Some judged her because of her appearance. Others assumed her position reflected her value. They saw her uniform, her quiet personality, and her ordinary routine, but they never saw the strength behind them. Emily never responded to their opinions with anger. She understood that people often judged what they could see without taking the time to discover what was hidden beneath. Vincent noticed her occasionally, but only as part of the staff who kept his home running smoothly. He never imagined that the woman who carefully organized his library, prepared his morning coffee, and maintained the quiet order of his home carried a secret connected to his past. 15 years earlier, before Vincent became the powerful figure everyone knew today, his life had taken a different path. There had been a moment when a stranger showed him unexpected kindness and changed the direction of his future. He remembered the feeling, the words, and the gratitude he carried from that day. But he never remembered the person's name. Over time, that memory became a distant chapter buried beneath years of responsibility and success. Now, standing in his mansion years later, Vincent had no idea that the answer had been closer than he could have imagined. Emily continued working without seeking recognition. She never mentioned the past. She never hinted that she knew something about him that nobody else knew. That was what made her different. Many people around Vincent wanted something from him. They wanted influence, opportunities, or connections. Emily wanted nothing. She simply did her work and lived by the values she had always followed. One evening, during a gathering at the mansion, several guests made careless comments about Emily. They laughed about her being just a maid and questioned why someone like Vincent would even notice her. Emily heard their words, but remained calm. She had heard similar comments before. Vincent also heard them, but he paid little attention. At that moment, he still saw Emily the same way everyone else did. Someone ordinary, someone easy to overlook. What he did not know was that the person standing quietly nearby was not ordinary at all. She was the person who had once given him hope when he needed it most. And soon, Vincent Blackwood would discover that the woman everyone underestimated was the one person who had changed his life before he even knew her name. Vincent Blackwood had forgotten many faces throughout his rise to power, but one forgotten face was about to change everything he believed about loyalty, kindness, and the people who truly mattered. After years of building his reputation, Vincent had become accustomed to seeing people approach him with hidden intentions. Almost everyone who entered his world wanted something. Some wanted opportunities, some wanted protection, and others wanted to benefit from his influence. That was why Emily Carter was different. She never asked for anything. Every morning, she arrived at the mansion, completed her duties, and treated everyone with the same quiet respect. She did not change her behavior when important guests arrived. She did not try to impress Vincent. She simply remained herself. At first, Vincent considered that unusual but not important. He had more urgent matters to handle, more decisions to make, and more responsibilities to carry. Yet little moments began to catch his attention. He noticed that Emily remembered small details others ignored. She knew which staff members needed help. Without being asked, she treated everyone in the mansion with patience, whether they had influence or not. Those actions seemed simple, but to Vincent, they became increasingly difficult to ignore. One afternoon, Vincent returned home earlier than expected. As he walked through the mansion, he noticed Emily carefully organizing old items in a storage room. Among the belongings was an old box containing photographs and personal records from many years ago. Vincent did not think much of it at first, but one small detail caught his attention. A familiar symbol appeared on one of the items inside the box. It was connected to a memory he had not thought about in years. 15 years earlier, Vincent was not the powerful man everyone recognized today. He was younger, still trying to understand the responsibilities that came with his family's name. During that difficult period, he met someone who offered him help when he least expected it. The person did not ask for recognition or anything in return. She simply chose to help because it was the right thing to do. Vincent remembered the feeling of gratitude, but time had buried the details. He never learned the person's full story. He never had the chance to properly thank her. Seeing that familiar symbol again created a question he could not ignore. Could the past he had forgotten somehow be connected to someone standing in front of him every day? Vincent looked at Emily differently for the first time. He began wondering what other parts of her story he had never noticed. Later that evening, he watched her interact with the other employees. She smiled, offered support, and continued working without realizing that someone was paying closer attention. For the first time, Vincent saw beyond the uniform. He saw a person with a history, experiences, and a strength that had nothing to do with wealth or status. Meanwhile, Emily remained unaware that the memory she had kept private for 15 years was beginning to return to the man whose life she once changed. She had never planned to reveal the truth. She had never wanted recognition from Vincent Blackwood. But sometimes, the past finds its way back when people least expect it. And Vincent was about to discover that the quiet Maid everyone overlooked was connected to the most important moment of his life. Vincent Blackwood could not stop thinking about the symbol he had seen. It was a small detail that most people would have ignored, but to him it carried a memory he had buried for years. He had spent so much time building his future that he rarely looked back at the moments that shaped him. Yet now, standing inside his own mansion, he felt connected to a chapter of his life he thought was long forgotten. 15 years earlier, Vincent was not the powerful mafia boss people knew today. He was younger, less experienced, and still learning how to navigate a world filled with expectations. During that time, he found himself facing a difficult moment when an unexpected person offered him kindness and guidance. She did not know his future. She did not care about his family name or what he might become. She simply saw someone who needed help and chose to do the right thing. Vincent remembered the warmth of that moment, but he never remembered the person clearly. Life moved forward quickly, and the responsibilities that came with his position eventually covered the memory with years of meetings, decisions, and challenges. Now, as he looked at Emily Carter, he started wondering if the answer had been beside him all along. Emily noticed that Vincent seemed different. He asked more questions than usual. He paid closer attention to conversations. She could feel that something about him had changed, but she did not understand why. She continued her work as she always had, never expecting anything from him. For Emily, the past was something she had accepted and moved on from. She had never told anyone about what happened 15 years earlier because she believed kindness did not need recognition. Meanwhile, Vincent began quietly searching for answers. He looked through old records and memories, trying to connect the pieces. The more he discovered, the more he realized that the person he was searching for had qualities very similar to Emily. The patience, the kindness, the willingness to help without expecting anything in return. But Vincent still struggled to believe it. How could someone he had overlooked for so long be connected to one of the most important moments of his life? One evening, Vincent found Emily in the mansion's garden. She was arranging flowers for an upcoming event, completely focused on her work. He watched her for a moment before asking a simple question. "Have we ever met before?" Emily paused briefly. She looked surprised by the question, but quickly returned to her calm expression. "I do not think so," she answered. Her response was honest, but Vincent noticed something in her eyes. A small hesitation. A memory she seemed to recognize, but did not want to reveal. That moment made Vincent even more curious. He realized Emily was not hiding something because she wanted attention. She was protecting a part of the past that she had chosen to leave behind. For the first time, Vincent understood that there was a story behind the quiet woman everyone ignored. A story that connected her to him in a way he never imagined. The truth was getting closer, and soon Vincent Blackwood would learn that the person he barely noticed had been the reason he received a second chance 15 years ago. Vincent Blackwood had spent years believing that the most important answers in life could be found through careful planning and information. He built his reputation by understanding situations before making decisions. Yet the one mystery that mattered most was connected to a person he had never truly noticed. Emily Carter continued working quietly in the mansion, unaware that Vincent was slowly discovering the truth about their shared past. She never expected him to remember the moment from 15 years ago. In her mind, it was simply something she had done because it was the right thing to do. She never considered herself a hero. She never believed she deserved special treatment. That was exactly why the truth was so difficult for Vincent to accept. The person he had been searching for was someone who had never asked to be found. As Vincent continued looking through old records, he discovered a connection that confirmed his suspicions. The details matched perfectly: the time, the place, and the kindness shown by a young woman who helped him during a turning point in his life. He finally understood that Emily had been the person who gave him hope when he needed it most. The realization affected him deeply. He remembered the moment from years ago more clearly now. He remembered a young woman who did not care about his background or his future. She did not know he would become a powerful figure. She did not know his name would one day carry influence. She only saw someone who needed compassion. Vincent looked at Emily differently after learning the truth. The same woman others overlooked had been carrying a memory that changed his entire life. He wondered how many times he had walked past her in the mansion without realizing who she truly was. He thought about every moment he had judged people based on their position and appearance. For the first time, he recognized how wrong those assumptions could be. Later that evening, Vincent approached Emily with a different attitude. He was no longer speaking to her as an employee. He was speaking to her as someone whose actions had shaped his life. "Why did you never tell me?" he asked. Emily looked at him quietly. She knew this conversation would eventually happen, but she had never prepared for what she would say. "Because I did not help you, so you would owe me something," she replied. "I helped because someone needed help." Those words stayed with Vincent. In his world, almost every favor came with expectations. Almost every relationship involved an exchange. But Emily had done something meaningful without asking for anything in return. That was rare. That was something he respected. Vincent apologized for the way he had overlooked her. He admitted that he had judged her without knowing her story. Emily accepted his apology, but she reminded him that people should not need a special reason to be treated with respect. Her words made him think about the way he viewed everyone around him. From that day forward, Vincent began seeing Emily not as the maid in his mansion, but as the person who reminded him of a lesson he had forgotten. The woman everyone underestimated had become the person he respected most. And Vincent Blackwood finally understood that the greatest acts of kindness are often performed by people who never expect anyone to remember them. Vincent Blackwood had spent years believing that people earned respect through power, influence, and the ability to control difficult situations. But after discovering Emily Carter's hidden connection to his past, he began questioning everything he thought he knew about loyalty and human value. The truth was not only that Emily had helped him 15 years ago. The deeper truth was that she had done something meaningful without ever expecting recognition. That was something Vincent found difficult to understand because his entire world operated differently. In his experience, people usually wanted something in return. Emily was the rare exception. After their conversation, Vincent started paying closer attention to the way people treated those around them. He noticed things he had ignored before. He noticed how some employees were respected only because of their positions, while others were overlooked despite their dedication. He realized that he had unknowingly followed the same pattern for years. He had seen titles before people. He had seen appearances before character. Emily had challenged that belief without ever trying to change him. She simply showed him another way of seeing the world. Meanwhile, Emily remained the same person she had always been. She did not suddenly act differently because Vincent knew her secret. She continued working, helping others, and carrying herself with quiet confidence. She never used her connection to Vincent as a way to gain special treatment. That surprised him more than anything else. Many people around him would have taken advantage of such knowledge, but Emily treated the past as something meaningful, not something valuable. One afternoon, Vincent invited Emily to sit with him in the mansion's library. It was a place where he usually made important decisions, but this conversation was different. He wanted to understand her story. He wanted to know what happened 15 years ago and why she chose to keep it private. Emily explained that she never saw herself as someone important. She was simply someone who noticed a person in need and decided to help. She did not know what Vincent would become. She did not know he would one day lead a powerful organization. To her, He was just a person going through a difficult moment. Vincent listened carefully. Her words reminded him of something he had forgotten. Before becoming a powerful mafia boss, he was simply a person trying to find his way. Emily had seen the person beneath the reputation. "You were the only person who helped me without asking who I was," Vincent said. Emily smiled gently. "Sometimes people need kindness before they need explanations." That sentence remained in his mind long after their conversation ended. Vincent realized that he had spent years building walls around himself because he believed trust was a weakness. But Emily showed him that trust, when given to the right people, could become a source of strength. As days passed, the people around Vincent began noticing changes. He listened more carefully. He showed more appreciation toward those who supported him. He became less focused on maintaining an image and more focused on being a better leader. Some people were surprised by the transformation, but Vincent understood where it began. It began with a woman everyone overlooked. The maid they thought had nothing to offer was the person who reminded him what truly mattered. And for the first time in years, Vincent Blackwood was not just thinking about the power he had built. He was thinking about the person he wanted to become. Vincent Blackwood had always believed that the people closest to him were those who understood his world the most. But after learning the truth about Emily Carter, he realized that understanding someone required more than knowing their position or their role. It required seeing the person behind the image. For years, Vincent had been surrounded by people who recognized his power before they recognized him as a human being. Emily was the opposite. She saw him as a person before she ever knew his name carried influence. That difference changed the way he looked at every relationship in his life. As the weeks passed, Vincent continued to learn more about Emily's past. He discovered that 15 years earlier, she had been facing her own challenges while still choosing to help someone else. She had no idea what his future would become. She had no reason to believe that the person she helped would one day become one of the most powerful men in Chicago. Yet she still chose kindness. That simple decision stayed with Vincent because it reminded him of a time before he became focused only on responsibility and reputation. He began to wonder how many other people had valuable stories that he never took the time to understand. One morning, Vincent noticed Emily helping a new employee who was struggling with their responsibilities at the mansion. She did not criticize or make the person feel embarrassed. She simply offered guidance and encouragement. Vincent watched quietly and realized that this was the same quality she had shown years ago. Her kindness was not something she performed when someone important was watching. It was simply who she was. That realization made Vincent respect her even more. He had spent much of his life surrounded by people who changed their behavior depending on who had power in the room. Emily never did that. She treated everyone with the same level of dignity. Later that day, Vincent asked Emily why she never tried to use her connection to him for personal benefit. "You could have told me years ago," he said. "You could have asked for anything." Emily shook her head. Helping someone should not become a reason to expect something back. Vincent remained silent for a moment. Those words challenged the way he had viewed the world. He had always believed every action had a purpose, and every favor came with a hidden expectation. Emily showed him that some actions were simply based on values. As Vincent continued changing, not everyone around him understood. Some people questioned why he treated Emily with such respect. They believed someone in his position should keep distance from someone like her. Vincent heard those opinions, but for the first time, he did not let them influence his judgment. He knew what others did not know. He knew the truth behind Emily's character. He knew the courage she had shown when nobody was watching. One evening, Vincent walked through the mansion and saw Emily arranging flowers near the entrance. It reminded him of how everything had started. She had always been there, quietly contributing, never asking to be noticed. The difference was that now he finally noticed. Vincent understood that the greatest lessons in life do not always come from powerful people or important moments. Sometimes they come from the person standing quietly in the background, waiting for someone to see their true value. And Vincent Blackwood knew that Emily Carter was the person who had changed his understanding of loyalty, respect, and what it truly meant to be strong. Vincent Blackwood had spent years believing that his reputation was something he needed to protect at all costs. Every decision, every relationship, and every public appearance had been carefully managed because he understood the importance of perception. But after learning the truth about Emily Carter, he began to realize that protecting an image was not the same as building something meaningful. The people around him noticed the difference. Vincent was still the same powerful mafia boss with the same responsibilities, but the way he treated others had changed. He listened more carefully. He showed appreciation more openly. He no longer believed that kindness was a weakness. However, not everyone welcomed this change. Some people in Vincent's circle questioned why he gave Emily so much respect. They could not understand why someone in his position would value the opinion of a maid. They saw her role and her appearance before they saw her character, repeating the same mistake Vincent himself had once made. One evening, during a private gathering at the mansion, the conversation turned toward Emily. Several guests discussed her as if they already knew her story. They believed she had simply been fortunate enough to work near someone powerful. Vincent listened quietly until he realized something important. The people judging Emily had never taken the time to understand her. They were only seeing what was visible. "You are judging someone you have never truly met," Vincent finally said. His words surprised the room. In the past, Vincent might have ignored the conversation or agreed with them. But now he understood how harmful those assumptions could be. He knew exactly what it felt like to overlook someone because of a first impression. Later, Vincent shared the conversation with Emily. He expected her to feel upset, but she remained calm. "People will always have opinions," she said. "What matters is whether we allow those opinions to decide our value." Vincent admired her confidence. Emily did not need approval from wealthy people or powerful figures. She knew who she was, and that was something Vincent found rare. Throughout his life, he had met many people who appeared confident because of what they owned or who they knew. Emily's confidence came from something completely different. It came from knowing her own principles. As time passed, Vincent began making choices that reflected what he had learned. He started recognizing employees for their dedication instead of their status. He became more thoughtful in his decisions. He understood that leadership was not only about giving orders. It was also about understanding the people who helped create success. Emily never asked for recognition, but Vincent made sure her efforts were respected. Not because of their shared history, but because she deserved it. One afternoon, Vincent visited Emily while she was working in the mansion's garden. She looked exactly the same as she had always been, focused on her work and unaware of the influence she had on his life. "Do you realize how much you changed my perspective?" Vincent asked. Emily smiled. "I only reminded you of something you already knew." Those words stayed with him. Vincent realized that Emily did not transform him into someone different. She simply helped him remember the person he wanted to become. The woman everyone ignored had become the person who helped him understand what true respect meant. And for Vincent Blackwood, that lesson was worth more than all the power he had ever gained. Vincent Blackwood had spent most of his life believing that respect was something people earned through power and influence. He thought a person's position determined how others should treat them. But after everything he had learned from Emily Carter, he began to understand that respect was not created by fear or status. It was created by the way people treated each other when there was nothing to gain. This lesson continued to shape the way Vincent approached his life. The changes were not dramatic overnight decisions. They appeared in small moments, in the way he spoke to people, the way he listened, and the way he considered perspectives beyond his own. Emily noticed these changes, but never took credit for them. She understood that real growth had to come from within. Vincent respected that about her. She never tried to control his choices or demand recognition for helping him. She simply encouraged him to see things differently. One morning, Vincent invited Emily to join him at a charity event connected to the organization he supported. In the past, he would have chosen someone based only on reputation or social connections. This time, he wanted someone who represented values he had learned to appreciate. Emily was surprised by the invitation. She did not believe she belonged in a room filled with influential people. "You have spent years helping others without anyone noticing," Vincent told her. "People should see the person behind the work you do." Emily accepted the invitation, but she remained humble. She did not change the way she spoke or behaved because of the people around her. She treated everyone with the same kindness she always had. Vincent watched as guests who were used to important conversations became interested in Emily's perspective. They saw what he had already discovered. Her strength did not come from wealth or recognition. It came from her character. Later that day, Vincent reflected on how different his choices had become. Years earlier, He would have believed that someone like Emily had no place beside him. He would have measured her value by her position instead of her actions. Now he understood that he had been looking at the world from the wrong perspective. The person who seemed ordinary was actually someone with extraordinary qualities. That evening, Vincent and Emily talked in the mansion's garden, the same place where he had first started questioning her connection to his past. 15 years ago, you helped me when you had no reason to, Vincent said. Now I understand that was not just one-kind action. It was who you were then, and it is who you are now. Emily smiled softly. People do not become valuable because others finally notice them. They are valuable from the beginning. Vincent remembered those words. He realized that his biggest mistake had not been forgetting the past. It had been failing to see the people around him in the present. As the days continued, the people closest to Vincent saw a different kind of leader. He was still respected, still responsible, and still powerful. But now he understood that true influence came from trust and understanding. The woman everyone once ignored had become the person who helped him see beyond appearances. And Vincent Blackwood knew that the greatest change in his life began with someone who never asked to be noticed. Vincent Blackwood often thought about the moment when everything changed. It was not a moment filled with power, influence, or a major decision. It was a quiet moment when he finally saw the value in someone he had overlooked for years. Emily Carter had entered his life as a maid in his mansion, someone most people barely noticed. But the truth was that she had been part of his story long before anyone knew her name. 15 years earlier, she had shown him kindness when she had no reason to do so. She had helped him without knowing who he would become, without expecting anything in return, and without ever using that memory for personal gain. That simple act became the foundation of a lesson Vincent would carry for the rest of his life. As time passed, Vincent continued to change. He remained the respected mafia boss that many people recognized, but he was no longer the same person who believed status defined worth. He understood that every person had a story, and every person deserved to be seen beyond their position. The people around him noticed the difference. Employees who once felt invisible began feeling appreciated. Conversations that once focused only on business began including trust and understanding. Vincent did not change because he lost his power. He changed because he finally understood how to use it differently. Emily watched these changes with quiet happiness, but she never allowed herself to believe she was the reason for them. She knew Vincent had made his own choices. She had only shown him a different perspective. One evening, Vincent returned to the place where he kept memories from his past. He found the old item connected to the moment 15 years earlier and held it carefully. For years, he thought that event was only a forgotten chapter of his life. Now he understood it was one of the most important moments that shaped who he became. He thought about how easily he could have continued ignoring Emily if he had never discovered the truth. He thought about how many people he might have overlooked because he only saw what was visible. That realization stayed with him. Later, Vincent found Emily arranging flowers in the mansion. It reminded him of the first time he noticed her, but everything felt different now. He no longer saw an employee completing a task. He saw the person who reminded him of compassion, humility, and the importance of seeing beyond appearances. You know, Vincent said, I spent years believing power was what made people important. Emily looked at him and smiled. And what do you believe now? Vincent thought for a moment before answering. I believe people are important before anyone recognizes them. Those words represented how far he had come. The man who once judged others by their position had learned to value their character. The man who believed control was everything had learned the importance of trust. And the woman everyone underestimated had become the person who changed his entire understanding of life. Emily never saved Vincent because she wanted a reward. She never helped him because she expected him to remember her. She did it because kindness was part of who she was. In the end, Vincent realized that some people enter your life for a brief moment but leave a lasting impact forever. The person he once failed to notice became the person he respected most. And Vincent Blackwood finally understood that the greatest treasures in life are not always found through power, wealth, or influence. Sometimes they are found in the quiet kindness of someone who never asked to be seen.